And if I told you that your body may be whispering secrets about a world that your eyes do not see, it has already happened to you, being alone in a room and out of nowhere feeling that shiver running down your spine, as if an invisible breeze had passed through you, or your arm hairs standing on end without any logical explanation. These are not just frights from your mind. Serious researchers, such as those at the Psychophysical Research Institute, have been studying for decades how subtle energies affect us. And the spirit doctrine, based on the works of Allan Kardec, brings a fascinating perspective. These sensations may be the first sign of a silent dialogue. Your body, this perfect machine, possesses sensors much older than reason. It may be detecting a presence before you even understand. But how to distinguish a simple shiver from the cold of something truly extraordinary? The answer is in a code that we will decipher together.
So that chill that we feel, that cold that seems to come from nowhere, what is it really? To begin to understand, we need to do an exercise of imagination. Think about your body, not just as flesh, bone, and blood. Think of it as if it were a radio station, full of life, emitting waves all the time. Science calls this a bioelectromagnetic field. It's a subtle energy that surrounds us, and some ancient traditions call this an aura. Now, imagine what happens when another radio station with a different frequency approaches you. Exactly, it interferes with your signal. That's the central idea for deciphering our first mystery. The engineer and researcher Hernani Guimarães Andrade, one of the pioneers in Brazil to study this with rigor, called this our transmitting station, perispirit. It is as if it were a second body, made of a finer and more energetic matter that is totally linked to our physical body. It is through it that the sensations of the spiritual world reach our skin, to our nerves. When a spiritual presence, which also has its own energetic body, approaches, the two fields come into contact. It is like two magnets feeling each other at a distance. And our physical body, which is what we feel, registers this interference in a very clear way.
And how does he record it? In various ways, but the most common are precisely those that we usually ignore or think is something from our heads. The first, and most universal, is the change in temperature. It's not any cold, it's that cold that seems to form out of nothing, localized, often around us or at a specific point on the body, such as the back of the neck or the back. You can be in a warm, quiet environment, and suddenly that cold air envelops your arms. Common physics doesn't explain this properly, because there isn't a current of air, there isn't an open window. It's a cooling that comes from the inside out, or better, that comes from this energetic interaction.
And with this cold comes the classic sensation, the hairs standing on end. This is not just a primitive reflex of fear. It is a direct physiological reaction to energy. The small muscles at the base of each hair contract when our system perceives something different, something new in our energetic environment. It is an ancestral warning signal. And there are also the chills, those fine tremors that run down the spine, like a gentle shock of static electricity, but coming from within. These are the most subtle signs, the first whisper of the body saying, "Hey, there's something here."
But this is just the superficial layer of the conversation, because if our energy field is affected, what happens to the things that it connects? I'm talking about our senses, sight, hearing, and mainly our emotional world, which is pure energy. Because if a presence can make you feel cold, what else can it do? The answer to that is what will completely change the way you see those shadows in the corner of your eye, or that sadness that appears out of nowhere.
So, if our body is a radio station and feels the interference of another presence, what happens to the programming that is playing? I'm talking about our senses, and mainly our emotions, because this is the deepest part, and often the most confusing part of all this experience. You are completely tranquil, maybe even happy, and suddenly a heavy cloud of sadness falls over you, from nothing, without reason. Or that irrational fear that tightens your chest, the anxiety that rises from the mouth of your stomach, even though everything is fine around you. The opposite also happens, an overwhelming peace,
a joy without explanation that invades your heart. This is not foolishness or something from your head in the sense of invention. It is something real, and the explanation is fascinating.
The André Louis spirit, through the psychographed books by Chico Xavier, explains this in a very clear way. He describes that emotions are not just abstract feelings. They are living, concrete energies that we emanate all the time. And the most important thing, we can be influenced by the emotional energy of others. Think of a day when you entered an environment where two people had just had a fight. The atmosphere is heavy, right? You feel that tension in the air, even without knowing what happened. Now expand this concept. In the spiritual plane, the deceased consciousnesses also carry their emotions, their pains, their joys, their memories, and when they approach, this energy of theirs can literally echo within you. It's as if you tune in to the radio station of their feeling. You begin to feel what they feel.
This is particularly powerful when the presence has an affectionate bond with you. That sudden and deep longing for someone who has passed away, accompanied by the feeling that they are nearby, often has that origin. But the physical senses also enter into this harmony in a mysterious way. The vision, that fleeting shadow in the corner of the eye, the shadow that moves and disappears, the small points of light that dance in the air. The hearing one's own name whispered, a clear call, or even small noises such as footsteps, light knocks, the sound of an object falling without anything having fallen. Parapsychology, which studies these phenomena, calls this clairvoyance and clear hearing, the ability to see and hear beyond the normal physical spectrum.
And what does all of this mean? It means that communication is often not with words. It is with feelings and subtle images. It is the spiritual mind trying to use its own mental screen, its own memory banks, to create an image, a sound, a sensation that you can recognize. It is an attempt at contact through the universal language of emotions and sensory impressions. But what happens when this contact goes beyond an impression, and when it stops being just a feeling or a noise, and becomes something that your whole body registers in a way that is unmistakable and physical, like a real touch?
And when the presence is no longer just a sensation or an emotion borrowed, but something that seems to touch you physically. This is the most intense level of dialogue, when the body receives a message impossible to ignore. It can be a slight touch on the shoulder, as if a hand rested there for an instant, or the sharp sensation of someone passing their fingers through your hair, even when alone. In rarer cases, a gentle pressure on the chest, that famous feeling of heaviness. A powerful signal comes from the sense of smell, to perceive a specific perfume, such as the scent of a deceased loved one's favorite flower, or an aroma that evokes a strong memory without any physical source nearby. And there are phenomena involving our internal electrical system, an involuntary muscle spasm, a fine tremor in the hands, a small static shock. Dr. Sergio Felipe de Oliveira studies the pineal gland, considered our biological antenna for the spiritual. Its activation could explain these direct physical reactions.
So what to do with all this? The key is not fear, but understanding. Your body is a sensitive instrument, not an enemy. When you perceive these signs, take a deep breath, seek serenity, a simple prayer, a thought of peace, as guides the Spiritist doctrine, can harmonize the environment. These sensations are, above all, a reminder that we are more than matter. We are beings of connection, capable of perceiving realities that go beyond the visible. Now, when that chill arises, you will know it can be just your body, whispering that the universe is much vaster and more mysterious than we imagine.